Well, good morning. This is Ian Roland Crane. And it's the morning of Friday, 26th of January 2018. And it is right now, it's a beautiful sunrise here, although earlier it was very definitely a red sky. So not sure what the weather's going to bring for us over the course of the next weekend. But frankly, it doesn't matter. Because yesterday was an absolutely seminal day in the UK anti-fracking campaign, and particularly, of course, the campaign against the Mother-Frackers here in England. So yesterday was the day that the Mother-Frackers were seriously spanked from so many different quarters, and of course I doubt that they're getting the message, because the level of arrogance and myopic worldview knows no bounds. But yesterday the day started off really well. We had our first surfer here at Missing Springs. Unfortunately, Nottinghamshire police decided that once he was inside the empty aggregate vehicle coming out of the Missing Springs site, that they would send in their arrest crew out of sight of the cameras, and simply bundle him to the ground, and then drag him out of the back of the vehicle and throw him into the police van. I'm pleased to say that I gather he was released from Mansfield Police Station last night. So that got the day off to a start, but from that point forward, it just got better. So there were two events yesterday that were of significance in terms of both IGAS and INEOS. And IGAS here at Missing Springs, and of course just down the road at Tinker Lane, but also looking to get permission to go in and evaluate their existing well at Ellesmere Port. Well, the Cheshire anti-fracking community have really been on the case, and have been relentless in their process of education, not least amongst the education of their elected representatives. And so yesterday, Cheshire County Council voted by 11 to none to reject IGAS's application to return to the well at Ellesmere Port. And John Blamires, the Chief Operations Officer, trots out his usual sociopathic diatribe, saying, well, we're very disappointed and we can't really understand why the County Council have rejected our application. Well, there's the problem. There's the problem, John. You just don't think like a normal human being. And you certainly don't think like people who have to live within the proverbial spit of where you want to do your test frack. Okay, we're going to get into the detail of the acidization here, but however you describe it, ultimately you had every intention of fracking that well. And basically, that ain't going to happen anytime soon, is it, John? So that was IGAS, and now of course they are considering their options, which normally means running to the government and asking for an appeal. Well, meanwhile, of course, just across the other side of the Pennines, Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council were voting on their intended reaction to the public inquiry once INEOS start the process of trying to get permission to drill and subsequently frack at Hart Hill. Now, INEOS have, of course, not exactly endeared themselves to the Rotherham councillors or to the councillors of North Derbyshire by saying, you know what, we're actually bored, you guys are taking too much time, we're going to bypass local democracy. We've proven that we can do that in the courts already by getting an injunction, so we're going to bypass local democracy, and we're simply going to just ask the government to decide this through public inquiry. Well, yesterday Rotherham Metropolitan Borough Council were deciding on their response to the application, and they also voted, I believe it was unanimous, there may have been one dissenting vote, not 100% sure at the moment, but almost unanimous, was to reject the application by INEOS and offer a robust opposition to the INEOS application to drill and frack at Hart Hill. And you know, this I think is going to be the response by the other councils as well, who INEOS have decided to just ride roughshod over and go straight to public inquiry. Now that of course was, both those decisions were hot on the heels of a decision by Lancashire County Council to further reject Quadrilla's latest effort at a traffic management plan to be able to return to Rossiter. And of course Rossiter was initially rejected by the planning inspector in favour of giving them permission to start work at Preston New Road, which of course that's not going too well, is it, Quadrilla? And so they're pushing to go to Rossiter, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon either. So that was 3-0. And then to cap it all off last night, Greg Clark finally did what he is supposed to do and demanded that Third Energy submit their accounts. And he basically stated that he was not going to sign off on the application by Third Energy to frack at Kirby Misperton until, at the very least, they had submitted their full accounts. Now, the reality is that he's not just going to look at the already 4-month late accounts of 2016, because obviously a lot has happened in that time. So even if the accounts for the period ending December 2016 stack up, which I somehow doubt they will, but nonetheless, they've been operating through 2017, getting into increasing amounts of debt. And more recently, they announced that they had to borrow another £7.5 million. Now, they haven't exactly disclosed what they needed that for, but the likelihood is that they've needed that to actually pay off the suppliers for the equipment that they've rented, which has been lying dormant on the pad at Kirby Misperton now for a total of, 79 days. So by the beginning of next week, we're into 80+ days at a conservative estimate of £100,000 a day. So, you know, these costs just for having that kit sitting there are quite probably the wrong side of 8 million. And they've only managed to blag another 7.5. And of course, 2 days ago, John Dewar, the Chief Operations Officer of Third Energy, who had previously stated that fracking at Kirby Misperton would be his crowning glory. Well, he finally fell on his sword. Whether he accepted the reality and that basically he's a rat leaving a sinking ship, or whether he was pushed. But of course he claims that, well, it was always planned that he was going to leave Third Energy on his 65th birthday last October. But anyone watching this will know that his departure from Third Energy at this particular juncture is very, very significant. And the likelihood is that if they didn't consider him to be the problem, they would have probably asked him to stay. But basically they couldn't get rid of him quick enough. Replaced by Alan Lund, and one really has to call into question whether or not this guy has done his due diligence, or whether he simply just took the opportunity to add another directorship to his CV. Because the bottom line is he has taken on a dog. And, you know, whether the guy is even capable of holding this level of position, and many people who hold directorships within these corporations do not have the competence. They do not have the fiscal competence, they do not have the business sense. They simply are appointed on the basis of who they know. And obviously being able to call in a few favours along the way. So after Greg Clark's announcement yesterday saying that he would not sign off on the application at Kirby Misperton until he'd had the proper opportunity to review their accounts and get the Treasury to determine whether or not they had sufficient financial resources to cover potential liabilities up to and including decommissioning, which, let me short circuit the process for you, Greg, they don't. Under any circumstances, they don't. The only way in which they're going to do that is to have INEOS buy them out. And then my recommendation is a full and extremely detailed investigation into the finances of INEOS. Now that won't be a 5-minute job, because the complexity of the INEOS financial hierarchy is extremely creative, to say the least. And they just shift debt around to from pillar to post to hide the real state of their Ponzi business. So bottom line, Alan, is that you stated that, you know, we're not really sure what this means. And that was in response to Greg Clark's statement of needing the financial scrutiny. Well, let me help you out here, Alan. What it means is, if you want to buy something, you actually have the finances available to buy it. And if you don't, then basically you can't buy it and you're not operating in any solvency. Now, I'd like to think that the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy has the expertise to fully analyse a balance sheet, to fully analyse the management, the financial and the tax accounts, because these companies will maintain 3 sets of books, I can assure you. And you need, as the approving authority here, you need to analyse each and every one of these sets of books. And if you don't know how these companies manipulate their finances and how they literally obfuscate the real situation, then you know, there's plenty of us out here that are more than happy to enlighten you in the way in which these businesses conceal the facts, to minimize their tax and to maximize their borrowing, and for the directors of these companies to maximize their addiction to greed. So one way or another, Thursday, January 25th, 2018, I think was quite possibly the day in which the zeitgeist of the country just might have got through to the socio-psychopathic mother-frackers who are determined to do what it takes to further their addiction to greed, but in the process to destroy the ecology, to destroy the agricultural industry of this country. And just maybe, what we're seeing yesterday is an insight into the lack of enthusiasm within the British government now to pursue an agenda that clearly does not have the support of the British people. And what is absolutely fascinating and truly rewarding for me is to see the breadth and the depth of the knowledge and awareness of the general populace against this industry. Never in recent history has there been a situation where the people of the UK have the level of knowledge, awareness and rapidly advancing expertise that actually puts this industry to shame and shows the magnitude of the incompetence and the literally not fit for purpose, not fit for doing business in any way, shape or form, let alone under the guise of attempting to extract gas from tight geology in this country. So, was a great day, and you know, we mustn't rest back on our laurels, because the lid of the coffin might be now being manoeuvred into place, but the anti-fracking community will keep doing whatever it takes to nail this coffin shut. And you know, the iGas stock price didn't seem to fall as much as it should have done at close of business last night, but hopefully we'll see an appropriate drop today. Of course, the iGas stock price is around about 94 pence at the moment, but that of course is a false figure because they revaluated last year at offering 1 share for every 20 at the old price. So in reality, the true price of iGas stock right now is barely 4 pence in real money. So, you know, I mean, obviously, if you're going to fall for the John Blameyer's blag of, you know, this time next year we'll be millionaires, then, you know, it may be, but my counsel is to put your money elsewhere, almost anywhere else. But, you know, renewables are becoming cheaper all the time, despite the British government's efforts to remove subsidies on renewables at every turn of the way. It's a natural order of things, and we are in the death throes of a hydrocarbon-driven economy. And well, nothing would give me greater pleasure than to wrap this and you know, move on and give me an opportunity to go play golf. Because until such time as this industry is absolutely dead and buried, I and an increasing number of others are going to be on the case 24/7. So meanwhile, let's take the opportunity to celebrate, to congratulate the anti-fracking communities in Cheshire and within South Yorkshire. And of course, they are also very much supported by the people of North Derbyshire. And this is, you know, also obviously hot on the heels of great results in Lancashire and in Lincolnshire. So not sure which part of this you don't get yet, but you know, over the course of the years we've run off Mark Miller from Quadrilla, Andrew Austin from iGas, David Lenigast from UCOG, John Dewar from Third Energy. And of course, a government, we've seen off ministers like Michael Fallon, Andrea Leadsom, Amber Rudd. And, you know, at last, for the first time in 8 years of nearly 8 years, I guess, of Tory government, we've actually seen that there is a Secretary of State that might just have the capacity for independence of thought and independence of operation that is almost unknown within the Tory administration. So have a great day, have a great weekend, and I'll be back with you on Monday morning at 8:30, hopefully with even more glorious news about the end of this abomination here in the UK. Catch you later.